Hi, good morning. It's Eugene from maverickstar Observatory. Sometimes, guys, we get an opportunity to discuss other matters on this channel, on YouTube. Pretty much the whole of the website, Pole Shift News, is dedicated to the magnetic pole reversal, and of course there are other anomalies like earthquakes that are happening daily, volcanic eruptions, sea ice extent, Schumann frequency, all the other stuff. To cut it short, there's plenty on there for anyone, and it's dedicated to what is taking place around our world. But I think it's great that we get an opportunity to discuss other matters, and in this upload, I'm going to talk about what Pope Francis is suggesting, and I don't think it's a bad idea. Before we get into that, I just want to give a huge thanks to our patrons and all those that are supporting our efforts here at the observatory. Just a quick reminder, it's a public observatory funded by the public, and if you want to help us continue doing what we do, then there's a link I'll mention at the end of this video. Okay, let's get into it. Well, it was very strange this morning. I'm driving along, and it's weird because there is a billboard where there's always adverts, and recently this particular one billboard has caught my attention twice now. Once about 2 months ago, and today again. And the first time it caught my attention was when a multi-billionaire was asking the British government for a bailout, who owns Topshop, and they'd put this information on the billboard. And I think it was the Daily Mirror that had paid for the billboard to be put up there, just shaming these billionaires, crying out for help because their pockets having a bit of a pinch. Let's just put that into consideration. When we know this month in the UK and the rest of the world, many tens of thousands of people are going to have their properties repossessed and be evicted. So I struggle to have very much sympathy for this billionaire who is asking the government for a bailout on the back of taxpayers. I don't think it's right. But the second time this billboard caught my attention was this morning, and it was talking about the Sabbath day. And I got a few jobs done around the house, and then sat down on the computer. I've got a few subscribers that I closely follow. One of those is Diamond, another one is Adapt 2030, and another one is the Ice Age Farmer, Christian. And it was his particular upload today that caught my attention because it was talking about the Sabbath. I thought, what a coincidence there. Let's hear what Christian's got to say on this matter. And later on in the video, it became apparent that he didn't support the idea of us returning back to a day of rest on the Sabbath. He said it was satanical because it was more guided, in his opinion, to being worshipping of the actual creation and not of the creator. But I've got to say this, and I don't mind whatever religion you have. If you've been following me for any length of time, I came to my own conclusion on who is the prime creator of our universe, and I describe him as the universal conscious. I think it's self-explanatory when you look at that equation that shows you that the whole of this universe is consciously creating using mathematics, and therefore if it's using mathematics, it must be intelligent, and therefore it must be it must be conscious, and therefore I say it's universally conscious. So that's just my take on this, but I do not have any problems with whatever religion you choose. It is your your opportunity to express your own feelings how you wish, and I think that is perfectly okay. But I don't think it's a bad thing. I remember here in the UK when Sunday began to creep slowly to be the new normal day of every week, and I had this conversation with my father-in-law at the time. We both agreed it was a bad idea, and we both saw that eventually Sunday would become an ordinary day of the week and there would be nothing special about it. But what we was probably discussing this for was because we felt that at least one day of the week people shouldn't be obliged to go into work and work that Sunday. This I felt was, and my father-in-law at the time felt, that this was a day that should be respected for and given to your family. So I think the idea here is that, I'm all for supporting Pope Francis with what he's saying here, but he is doing it for a different reason. Let's face that. He's not probably doing it for the beneficial reasons of family gatherings like they used to be on a Sunday Sabbath. And Sabbath means rest, of course. What Pope Francis is saying is that we've come to a crossroads, and we should take advantage of what we've learned during these times of the pandemic. And he's saying, it can help the world environmentally by having a Sabbath Sunday. Now, I don't particularly know what they are pushing at here, the Vatican, but I'm all up for, people spending time with their family. I think we should go back to having, a Sabbath day of, a day of non-working for people. But with regards to, the environment, us not having, at least one day a week where we are adding to the pollution and things like that, I don't think that is of importance more than families being together. I think the environment, as a scientist, is important, obviously, yes. If people are not working on a Sunday, less energy will be consumed, in not keeping shops open. People won't need to travel to work on a Sunday, so there will be some positive benefits. I'm not all up for, reducing CO2, because if we reduce it down to 250 parts per million, we pretty much shut down the biodiversity on our planet of vegetation. So I don't think that that's a good idea. I think we should put actually more CO2 into the atmosphere. And people that are uneducated about CO2, perhaps from groups like Extinction Rebellion, would slap me for this, for saying such a thing. But I've got the facts, as well as a lot of other people now, on actually what is taking place with CO2, and we are at a point in time where we have never had so little. So a slight increase is only going to be beneficial to the whole of this world. And here's another thing, like I've told people before, if we add more CO2 to the atmosphere, and only marginally recently over the last decade have we done this, we will see, like we are seeing with satellite footage, over deserts going greener, and that is increasing vegetation on a desert which would not normally support quantities of biodiversity, animals. And I also mentioned a few weeks ago that we've lost 1/3 of the species on this planet as a result of our activities. And any increase in an environment that sustains these species is not a bad thing. So CO2 is a good thing, and adding a little bit more into the atmosphere is a good thing. And I think that having a Sabbath day again for people to spend time with families, and having at least one day out of the 7 days that we have for rest, is a good thing. I don't think it should be given to the environment, but the environment nevertheless will benefit from it. Another thing that Pope Francis has hinted about is changing the capitalist system. And this is another thing I'm a big fan of, because I always talk about this being and past its sell-by date. This capital system that we're in is no longer what it was meant to be, and that was a capital system is equally place where everyone has an opportunity to improve themselves, and it's not because it's been rigged. But more so to the point, if we look at where we are right now, we're a world that has never had so many people, so many human beings on it. We're probably 7 billion going on to 7.5, maybe even 8 billion. and we're also at a point in time where we've reached a certain amount of technological advancement, which is taking the labour intensiveness out of the market. And there's a big problem with this, is because if you rely on a system that is a capital system where people exchange their labour for money in order to buy resources, then I think what we're doing is going completely backwards. We need to also change the system where we obtain the resources, because all we're doing is impoverishing more and more people. Pope Francis also talks about leaving these indigenous tribes alone that live in harmony with their surroundings, and stopping corporate national companies moving in on their territories for the resources such as trees, oil, etc., gas. And I think that that's absolutely fair as well for him to say that. We have to be sensitive about the environment. We have to take into consideration that we have to act responsibly, but the capital system with greedy corporations always seem to pose an opportunity for them to make money. And if they can remove this little indigenous tribe out of, say, this part of a rainforest, then they can exploit the resources there. And I feel that that's a little bit sad. We face a lot of problems, and we are not really seeing not much changes in a direction where things for the long-term foreseeable future will be better. I think we need to face reality on a few simple aspects in order for the benefit of us to move forward as a species and as stewards of the planet. I think we need to start globally agreeing on a few ideas. First of all, CO2 is not a real issue. We can only improve the quality of our world with a little bit more CO2. We're not damaging that. If we reduce it to zero, like Extinction Rebellion want, then we'll kill the planet. Then we'll have the problems that they're talking about. There won't be a planet left to have if we reduce our carbon emissions down to zero. And in any case, we are a speck in the ocean with regards to the actual amount that humans actually put into the atmosphere. If you look at natural occurrences of CO2 and the carbon cycle, you'll see that our input is negligible. And if we are putting a little bit more in, the world is only going to benefit from it, and so will the species in turn. So yeah, I think there needs to be a common agreement globally on this matter. And then I think we also need to look at the capital system, which is pushing people into poverty at the moment, because simply if you can't obtain a job in order to swap your labour for money in order to buy your resources, then you've only got another couple of options of obtaining that money to buy the resources. One is benefits, that puts you in poverty, and the other one is by stealing it, and there's a risk of going into jail. I don't think any of us want that risk of doing that. So really something needs to be changed, and it needs to be agreed upon globally first of all, and new ideas need to come forward as to how we change this capital system for the benefit of the majority and not just the minority like it is right now. We are seeing this month, with the loss of tens of thousands of people's houses, that wealth get transferred from the poor to the rich. And we're talking less than 5%, as opposed where we should be seeing the wealth transfer go to the 95%, because that is the minority. And therefore I would rather see a minority thriving than a majority thriving as opposed to a minority. I'd rather see 95% of us have a good life, live in a healthy environment, and leave room for the biodiversities on this planet, and also thrive as a species alongside nature. That would be two things I think we need to all agree on. That would be something that would advance us in the future and our future generations. what is happening. Sorry, I just don't want to. I don't want to overlook something. Pope Francis has also suggested that poorer countries around the world have debt forgiveness. That is a little bit of a coincidence, because I was talking about this only within the last week, that COVID-19 could be the criteria for even a lot of Western countries, which are really not as rich as what we like to think. Because if we look at the United States debt clock, we can see that even if that debt was shared between every individual in America, that there would still be outstanding amounts that are not paid off. So we've reached, in the US, in the UK, and a lot of other countries, a point where the debt is surpassed the ability to pay. It has been that way for a long time. So I agree with Pope Francis. There needs to be a reset. I would be surprised if COVID-19 was set up to achieve all this. But I think we all have to make our own decisions on who, getting back to what Christian was saying, that this is satanic. I think it's only satanic if that is what you use your Sabbath day for. If you use it to, worship the creation and not the Creator, then, that's entirely up to you. You don't have to use it in that manner. You can allow the Sabbath day to come back in, and you can say to anyone that asks you, is that, I'm not worshipping nature here and, giving the Sabbath to that. I'm giving it to my family and, and to the Creator. You make that choice on what you want to classify that day as. But I just think at least some of us human beings that have to work Sundays, deserve at least one of those 7 days a week off as rest. And it's entirely up to you. You don't have to, even though these people can try and impose it, it's not something that they can ever force you to do. You can turn around and say no, or you can turn around and say it's not for the environment, it's for my Creator. It's entirely up to you. But I do think that some of the issues that Pope Francis has raised are valid ones and are positive to some degree. I'd be interested in your views on that. I think you agree with me that this capital system has to go. It is outdated. We need another way of us obtaining the resources that we need. The capitalist system, in my view, is just open for abuse. And if you are one of these people that put your conscience in a closet, it also encourages you to be cruel and corrupt. Because in order for you to get what you want, you might also be tempted to take it off somebody that is less fortunate than yourself. And we're seeing this, aren't we? This month in the UK, in the United States, in Canada, New Zealand, Australia, you name it, all around Europe, we're seeing people lose their properties, and these will be the gains of the rich, just like in 2007, when there was a surplus of credit default swaps on the market, stagnant mortgages, and people that had been given mortgages they should never have had in the first place, because it was inevitable that they were going to go and default on them. And that's how hedge funds made billions in 2007 on the back of the losses of lots of people. You see, this is what happens in a capital system, which is supposed to be a free market, and we know it's not, because organisations get together and they form something like the European Union, who have not been elected by a single person. Who's running the European Union right now is an unelected person. He's self-proclaimed, the Minister of Europe, or whatever his title is. And that ain't right. And it ain't right the way Europe operate. But I'm not getting into Europe conversations and Brexit conversations and anything else. I just think it was a worthy topic of discussion, and just to add my views to that. And I'm giving you guys an opportunity to add your views in the comment section, because I'd be really interested in what your take was on what Pope Francis was suggesting, because there does appear to be some agreement with the world leaders on what he's suggesting. So yeah, I'll be interested in your points in the comment section. Give them. I always read them, and I'm going to leave it here. Just quickly mention, we're more than just a YouTube channel that talk about things. We're actually proactive. We build equipment. We get equipment out there around the world. We are aiming to put more around the world in order to get the answers we need using the scientific method. And if you want to support something of that nature, there is a description. In the description, there is a couple of links you can do so. And if you want to go onto Pole Shift News, there's a link there as well, which you can click, which doesn't get a lot of attention, even though there is 7,000 viewers every week. And we don't get that much attention either, even though there is 130,000 views on YouTube a month. So guys, food for thoughts. I thought I'd share that with you, and I look forward to your comments. I will say what I usually do: take care, look after your families, and as always, bye for now.